Have you ever been at the doctor's office and felt uncomfortable? Have you ever had difficulty conveying your medical problems? Well, for adolescents with chronic diseases, it's especially difficult for them to talk to their doctors about the problems that make them so different from their peers. And to bridge any communication gaps that may occur, our team has created Emma. Emma is an interactive iPad game that patients can play while they're in the waiting room. The game asks them questions, and physicians can use the patient responses to facilitate conversation and create a treatment plan that works best for the patient as well as for the physician. We have worked with adolescents from the OU Children's Physicians Building to create a game that is fun and engaging, so adolescents actually want to play it. I am Dara Sheth, and I am so excited to be here and to present Emma to you today. The other business interns on our team are Robert Free, Evan D. Philippus, and Mary Heslow. Our developers are Joshua Holmes, Calvin Nelms, and Susanna Rodriguez, and our designers are Caitlin Cadieux and Chris Smith. Our team is being led by Barry Conrad, and our mentors are Mike Wolfenberger and Kelly Tran. Lastly, we have partnered with Dr. John Bruno and his colleagues in the Improve Care Now network to develop our project. It was actually Dr. Bruno and his staff at the OU Physicians Children's Building who came to us with their problem at the beginning of the semester. They needed a more effective means of communicating with their adolescent patients. Dr. Bruno is a gastroenterologist, and most of his patients are adolescents who have digestive disorders. Most of these teens have embarrassing problems, and they're frequently uncomfortable discussing them with Dr. Bruno and his staff. As our team researched this problem, we learned that adolescent discomfort exists not only in gastroenterology, but in all pediatric subspecialties, as well as in the general pediatrics field. To put this problem into context, miscommunication occurs in 34% of physician-patient exchanges, and 43% of the time, patients are actually harmed by this miscommunication. To address this problem, we have created Emma to improve patient-physician communication. Emma is an interactive game that patients play while they're in the waiting room. They answer questions in the game, and they actually receive bonus points in the game for every question that they answer. The physician can use the interactive output screen that Emma creates to actually guide conversation with the patient and make the best treatment plan possible. There are several communication methods that physicians currently use to talk to their patients. The first is questionnaires and other forms of paperwork that patients fill out while they're in the waiting room. The second is the conversations that physicians and patients have. And the third is the Health eTouch, a non-commercialized tablet that uses an electronic means to ask adolescents questions about their personal behaviors. These communication methods can be evaluated against three key metrics. The first is the effectiveness of its method and its ability to elicit honest responses from adolescent patients. The second is the integration of this method into medical record systems, both paper and electronic. And the third is the versatility of this app and its ability to be applied in all fields of medicine. Questionnaires and conversations are not the most effective ways of communicating with adolescents. Parents frequently actually talk for adolescents themselves, and our research shows that adolescents sometimes view their physicians' privacy-invading adults who they just don't want to talk to. The Health eTouch has actually been proven to be 24% more effective at eliciting honest responses from patients. However, the Health eTouch wasn't created to be integrated into medical record systems, and it was only designed to be used in the primary care setting. Emma is effective, easy to use in medical record systems, and versatile enough to be used in every field of medicine. We've designed Emma with the Health eTouch's electronic means and combined it with a game that adolescents will want to play to create a comfortable environment for adolescents to discuss their medical problems in. We have also created Emma to seamlessly integrate into both paper and medical electronic record systems, and we have created a flexible framework so questions from any field of medicine can be easily incorporated into the game. Chris is now going to show you how Emma will be implemented in the clinic.
Thank you, Dara. So the next thing we need to ask ourselves is, how do we plan to implement Emma into the clinic setting? Right now, we envision a patient walking into a clinic, and a medical assistant will hand them the iPad to interact with during the 15 to 30-minute waiting period. The patient will then interact with Emma and go through the quiz questions in the gameplay and hand it back to the medical assistant. The medical assistant will then have the option to print the patient information to include in their paper records, upload it to their electronic files, or sync it directly to the physician's iPad. The information that the physician receives will help guide conversation in the actual doctor's visit, which ultimately leads to better care and treatment. Josh is one of our developers who's going to come up now and take you through the app. The developers and designers have been working closely together to really make Emma come to life. And through various discussions that we've conducted with not only physicians, but with parents and actual adolescent patients, we really feel that we've created something that's not only friendly for medical professionals, but something that is fun and engaging that adolescent patients will really come to enjoy. So here's Josh to take you through the app.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so to give you guys an idea of how this app looks, I'm actually going to show you guys the beta application that we have for use by Crohn's patients in clinic through the ICN network. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of different portions. I'm going to show you the screen where the medical assistant can key in some information about the patient. I'm going to show you the gameplay that the patient goes through. I'm going to show you some of the question sequences that they go through to help them educate themselves, and the doctor output screen. Okay, so when you launch the application, this is the first screen that shows. This is the screen where the medical assistant can key in some information about the patient, such as some of the trigger foods for their Crohn's, where exactly it affects them, and the current medications they're on, as well as their gender. So we'll go ahead and hit continue, and this is where the medical assistant will hand the iPad off to the patient. This is the first screen that the patient will see of the app, just really stylized, try to get them into it. So when they hit continue, they'll be brought to this kind of storyboard scene. It's laid out sort of like a comic book. It'll show them things such as the background story of the game, why they're playing it, things like that. So after they hit continue, they'll be brought to this world selection screen where they can select one of a variety of different levels to play through. So we'll go ahead and go with the ice level. Now, in the game, the player, they'll launch this vehicle right here, and they start flying through the air. They'll encounter random animals through the air that have varying effects depending on what they are and how you hit them. Some of them will slow you down, some of them will send you farther, things like that. You can tap the screen, get a little boost going. And essentially, the goal of this game is just to see how far the patient can get. And you'll see here after we land, our character Emma, she flies down and she'll present you with the questions essentially. So the patient will hit this answer questions button, and they'll be brought to one of these question views. In between each launch, they'll be presented with a series of multiple choice questions, and for every 3 questions they get correct, it gives them 1 more total boost for the next launch. So we'll go ahead and go through a couple of these questions here. So as you can see, in between question sets, again, you'll just be launched and you'll have more boosts depending on how you answered the questions before. And all the developers were really excited to present this to everybody. We've all put a ton of work into this. It can't even be expressed, honestly. And like one of the main selling points of this app that we're all really proud of is the fact that that patient statistics screen that you all saw initially, where the medical assistant will key in information about the patient, those statistics actually do filter the questions that are being presented to the patient. So all of the questions that they're being shown are very specific to their actual conditions of the disease. So after your final launch, as you can see here, they'll be presented with a couple of survey questions just to gauge their energy levels over the past couple of weeks, their emotions, how they've been feeling, things like that. And that was the last interaction that the patient has with the application. Here's the doctor output screen where they can get a variety of statistics about the patient, including which questions were actually asked, how well they did, all of their responses to these things. And if you click on these bars, it'll actually show you specifically which questions in that category were presented to the patient, as well as all of the possible answers for that question and how the patient responded. So yeah, this is our application. I hope you guys all really enjoyed it. Here's Chris again to tell you guys a little bit more about what makes our app so special and what makes it actually stand out from the rest of the solutions out there.
Thanks, Josh. So as you can see, Emma provides an engaging game with integrated questions and processed output so that doctors can better treat their patients. And we'll actually have a table outside after the presentations that you could actually interact with the game itself and see how Emma works. The key to Emma's success, however, is its versatility as it accommodates any content module. So for instance, with any of these 4 subspecialties, which happen to be the 4 that we plan to initially target, any one of them can plug in their specialty-specific content, and the Emma platform will remain compatible no matter what. So here's Robert to take you through how we plan to get Emma into the hands of patients.
Thanks, Chris. Now that you have a better understanding of our solution, Emma, I'm here to talk you through our path to market. It will consist of 3 phases. First, the development, research and growth, and then finally commercialization. As you just witnessed in the demo, this semester we have been working with Dr. John Grunow and his colleagues at OU Physicians Center to develop our Crohn's beta. Working with him and his colleagues, we intend to release this in January of next year. Now, Dr. John Grunow is a member of ICN, or the Improved Care Now Network. ICN is a consortium of over 300 pediatric GIs across the country dedicated to sharing techniques that are devoted to improving care for pediatrics with Crohn's disease. We would like to distribute our beta throughout this network. However, in order to do so, we must first go through the gatekeeper of C3N. C3N stands for the Collaborative Chronic Care Network, and they are responsible for implementing and evaluating all new practices that go into ICN. This moves us to our research and growth phase. We will entrust C3N with evaluating the efficacy of the Emma beta. They have the infrastructure to organize a coordinated deployment and perform the evaluation necessary. During this time, Team Emma will be developing 4 initial content modules beyond the initial Crohn's beta. This will include gastroenterology, endocrinology, pulmonology, and a general pediatric module. Once this phase is complete, we can move on to the commercialization stage. By this time, Emma will consist of the first 4 content modules I just described. It'll be backed by research through C3N, and it'll have regular use throughout the ICN network. With this, we can begin marketing to specialty physicians outside of OU and outside of ICN across the country. We intend to charge a $149.99 monthly subscription fee, and we'll expect the clinics to provide their own iPads. While this may seem like a barrier to entry, iPad use in clinic is a growing trend and one that we believe will continue. Another source of revenue will come in the form of physician-targeted advertisements. It's important to note that none of these advertisements will be presented to patients directly, and all will be presented on that final physician output screen. Finally, during this phase, we will also be expanding our content module library to add more subspecialties outside of the original 4 I mentioned. Now let's take a look at the business model. It consists of 3 players: Emma, Apple, and the physicians. Every app that we develop, we will submit to the Apple App Store. From there, physicians can go on and download the app pertinent to their subspecialty, and this is for free. However, in order to unlock and use the app, they're going to need to pay the $149.99 monthly subscription. Apple will take its 30% cut and pass 70% of the revenue back to Emma. We will also be receiving revenue from the outside advertisement source, as I mentioned earlier. In terms of marketing, we have developed a number of effective methods that will target physicians directly. And you will hear about these shortly. We will also be communicating with physicians outside of our original 4 modules to develop the new content modules and add them to our library. Taken all together, you can see a simple distribution and advertising model, marketing model, and 2 sources of revenue. Taking these 3 phases together, we intend to take Emma from the simple Crohn's beta as it stands today and turn it into a powerful and validated platform with effectiveness across pediatric subspecialties. Evan will now tell you about our markets and tell you how we intend to reach them.
Thanks, Robert. So our market consists of 2 segments, the general pediatric market and the pediatric subspecialty market. Collectively, these 2 markets amount to a total of $144 million in potential revenue, covering over 80,000 different physicians. More specifically, the general pediatric market consists of roughly 75% of the overall pediatric market and $105.1 million in potential revenue. Meanwhile, pediatric subspecialty market consists of 25% of the overall pediatric market and $34.2 million in potential revenue. So let's break down the pediatric subspecialty market a little bit further. Over the next 5 years, we intend on releasing 11 different modules, each module representing a particular subspecialty. At the end of this 5 years, we will capture roughly half of the overall pediatric subspecialty market, amounting to $11.7 million. As I stated earlier, this $11.7 million will come across roughly 6,500 different subspecialists. However, it's important to note that it is unlikely that we'll be able to capture 100% of the pediatric subspecialist market. So we've made the conservative estimate of a 5% market saturation rate based upon the analysis of penetration rates of analogous applications. In addition, the general pediatric component of the market consists of 58,600 general pediatrics, and we're making an even more conservative estimate regarding a market saturation rate of 2%. And the reason that we've made a more conservative estimate is because we believe it'll be more difficult to create an application that is useful for general pediatricians in the same way that it's useful for pediatric subspecialists, given the wide variety of different obligations and tasks that a general pediatrician has to pursue vis-a-vis the tasks that a subspecialist has to pursue. So how are we actually going to access this target market? We propose a 3-tiered marketing strategy involving symposia and conferences, advertising in medical journals, and an online interface utilizing websites. With regard to symposia, this will typically occur during the research and growth stage. We will be specifically attending a symposia sponsored by the American Pediatric Association. It is the largest in its kind and has over 800 different attendees. We plan on utilizing the relationship and the networks that we develop over the course of attending these symposia in order to really develop the credibility of our application. In addition, we know that this strategy will be effective because research suggests that 71% of physicians obtain information regarding their technology adoption decisions via this sort of symposia. Lastly, we will be attending the only mobile health expo in the United States, which is a synthesis of medicine and technology. And an expert in the field indicated that major health clinics and physicians go to these mobile health expos in order to determine whether or not they want to adopt certain new technologies. Our next strategy will be advertising in certain medical journals, which is the #1 most effective way of reaching physicians. Specifically, we will be accessing our target audience through the journal sponsored by the American Medical Association known as JAMA. The reason that we choose on targeting this market as this magazine or journal as opposed to more specialized journals such as the Journal of Gastroenterology or the Journal of Endocrinology is because our research suggests that for every $1 invested in advertising in JAMA, an average of $5 of revenue is produced, which is a 500% return on investment, the largest of any single advertising technique to physicians. In addition, it has the largest number of subscribers out of any journal, with 350 physician subscribers, meaning that we'll be able to access a much wider audience than what could be accessed through more specialized journals. Lastly, we'll be also utilizing an online strategy for marketing. First, this involves building our own custom website, which will function as a repository of information that physicians and medical clinics can look to in order to determine whether or not they want to adopt our technology. We will be utilizing this website in order to get reviews on specific app review websites that are specifically catered to target the physician demographic. This includes websites such as iMedical apps or eMedicine. Lastly, we will be utilizing a relationship that we have with a company known as HealthLink Dimensions, which has access to a comprehensive database of physician emails. This database consists of roughly 80% of our target population, and it is how a number of companies, including pharmaceutical companies, really access the large bulk of this market. So next, Mary will talk to you about how we can actually finance all of this.
Thanks, Evan. So as Robert mentioned to you all before, our path to market begins with the development and research and growth phases. The commercialization phase begins in 2014 with the release of Emma on the App Store for a subscription rate of $149.99 per month and advertising revenue, which we will receive from physician-targeted ads at a rate of 10 cents per impression. Finally, we'll be growing within these markets to expand to new subspecialties at a rate of 2 modules per year. When we look at this over time, our costs remain fairly flat. This is because our platform-based business model allows for new content development without significant developmental costs. However, our revenues will increase over time. This is because we'll be expanding to new subspecialty markets and we'll be saturating our existing markets at an estimated 5% saturation by year 5 in the subspecialties market and an estimated 2% saturation rate in the general pediatrics market by year 5. Our revenues here are broken down by subscription and advertising revenues. Taken together as our operating profits, we have an initial net loss of $216,000, but we soon break even in 2015 and see our operating profits grow to $3.1 million by year 5. So what are the next steps for Emma? We've broken them down into 2 phases, research and growth and commercialization. The research and growth phase will begin with the release of our beta application for the Crohn's disease model to ICN. At the same time, we'll go ahead and negotiate a handoff to C3N, who will research and validate our product in their clinics over the following 2 years. Also within CCEW, interns will continue to develop the new content modules that we discussed earlier to include gastroenterology, pulmonology, endocrinology, and general pediatrics. The commercialization phase kicks off in 2014 when we release the Emma app on the App Store and begin selling at a rate of $149.99 per month subscription to physicians, and where we also begin to receive advertising revenue through those physician-targeted ads. So to sum up, Emma is a powerful iPad application that improves patient and physician communication through a fun and effective gaming framework. Finally, Emma targets the growing mobile healthcare market by putting a powerful application into clinicians' hands to better patient treatment. We'd now like to thank you all for being here tonight, and again, we'd like to invite you out to enjoy the demo one more time and to play Emma for yourself as soon as presentations tonight are over. And we now would like to open it up to any questions you might have.